Hi there. So in this video I want to do another random makeup look where I pick my eyeshadow palettes by random, I pick the shades by random, and the blushes by random. Okay, let's just do this. Generating the random number for my palette. 3. We have the Sultry palette by ABH. This one I haven't used as much as my other palettes. I really do like my looks when I do use it. It's just that it's a more of a what I consider to be a more neutral palette. Okay, the next number is 6. We have Smoke Sessions by Melt. Okay, this is the Melt Cosmetics Smoke Sessions palette. Oh, that's pretty. I don't smoke marijuana. Yeah, whatever floats your boat. Let's do 3 colors from each and make it more fun. So I've got 14 shades here. I'm gonna do the random thing where it tells me which number. Okay, I got 6 again, which is Bloom. This shade right here, that's Bloom. It's upside down and not focusing, but it's fine. Another one, 9. 6, Twig, that one right there. And I should put them on my skin so I remember the shades, otherwise I forget. And last one is 14, so it's the last one, Nior. Oh, okay, well I didn't get any of the shimmer shades. What a bummer. Let's hope I get a shimmer shade in the Smoke Sessions one. Okay, so we've got these 3 shades to work with so far. And then, oh well, these are mostly shimmer shades, so I will probably get at least 1. So there are 8 shades here. 4? Oh, come on, give me something. That's sour diesel. That's a lot of matte shades I've got to use. All right, come on. 3, okay, at least 1. Black Widow. This is like olivey shade. 16. 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, I can work with that. That's a very neutral kind of shade. This one right here is the shade of blush I'm going to use. 6, 1. Okay, I've got Diamond Dust from Laura Geller. This one right here. This one, oh, no, not Unicorn Blood. This is Designer Blood. Designer Blood. Can't remember if Unicorn Blood is darker than Designer Blood, but it is a very red. So let's go. Okay, so I haven't really tried this setup before, so bear with it if it's a little bit strange. I'll try to figure this out as I go along, but essentially I'm trying to do a close-up of my eyes so that you can more clearly see the application process of the eyeshadows, because I think that's kind of the thing that I personally would be interested in seeing on other people's videos. And I have enjoyed videos where they really do a close-up of the eye and you get to really see how people apply their shadows. So I'm like doing this makeshift recording studio here. I'm using the back camera of my phone and I'm using a mirror to kind of use it as a viewfinder, because like, I mean, I can't see the screen if I'm using my back camera and I'm mounting it onto something. Where's my eyebrow pencil? I found it. Okay, so that's the eyes done. I kind of did my brows a little bit more, and I did just like tiny flicks over here and here. So I am going to curl my lashes now. I wanted to actually talk just a little bit about, I actually wanted to talk about something that I've noticed in the beauty community more recently, I suppose, and that is cancel culture. And I think this has already been spoken about for a while, probably for maybe a couple of years already. If you don't know what cancel culture is, it is essentially the boycotting of either a brand, a company, or in some instances, internet celebrities. Let's say YouTube influencers and Instagram influencers, essentially. And usually this boycotting takes place right after the brand, company, person, whatever entity it is, does something objectionable to the masses or to enough people to offend multiple people. And for instance, I think this really came into play, at least for me, and came more into my view when Tarte Shape Tape released a Shape Tape foundation. Yes, and they had released a very limited range of shades, and it was very noticeable that only 3 out of 15 shades, or even 2 out of 15 shades, were for darker skin tone people with darker skin tones. And people were upset. It wasn't just people who have darker skin tones. It was, well, I assume that they were the ones that probably brought it up first, and then people were just kind of like, oh, I noticed that too. Like, what's going on? Why are you only giving such limited shades for people with darker skin tones? And that kind of brought about a larger kind of discussion about how certain groups of people just aren't catered to as much within the beauty community, within, well, the beauty industry, really. When it comes to concealer shades, foundation shades, things like that, and also in terms of eyeshadow quality, that just doesn't work very well for people with darker skin tones, because the eyeshadow just don't show up. It's not pigmented enough, or the range within a palette is very, very light in tone. And yes, that brought about a lot of discussion. And so on one hand, I do believe like this ability to voice your opinion more freely nowadays is sort of beneficial. I mean, if you think about it, like, if something like this were to happen maybe in the 80s, 90s, for it to blow up, there would have to be maybe some sort of newspaper article written about it, people like, and then the media starting getting interested, and then people like, you know, agreeing with whatever. But nowadays, well, okay, and you can also write to the company that you are dissatisfied with their product. But nowadays there is this thing called social media where you typically can follow a brand that you buy from, and they kind of become personalities in themselves because they have a social media presence, and they post things like a person would. They would say, oh, don't you hate Mondays? Oh, I love coffee, etc., etc. Things that people can relate to, and they put out the appearance or the illusion that they, a brand, a company, is a personality as well, when in fact there's so many millions of employees and there's just probably one or two people behind the screen working the social media page. And I mean, depending on how prolific they go with the social media, there can be a whole team discussing what they want to put on their next post, what timings they want to put their next post on in order to attract the most views. And I say this because I was part of a social media marketing team for a fashion company a while back. And by no means am I like the grand guru of anything, but I know a little bit about it. But I wasn't like a expert or anything. I was the lackey behind the screen just typing up nonsense to put on social media. And I say nonsense not in a, it wasn't really nonsense, but it was just, stuff. Anyway, well, this feedback loop is positive to have, where you can, voice an opinion towards a brand in a collective way. If a lot of people notice something's wrong or something the brand did offends them, and you can create more awareness of what the consumer wants or what the consumer's values are, then there is just a more direct connection between consumers and the brands. And this can also change in terms this can also affect change in terms of we want cruelty-free makeup, we want ethically sourced materials, we want more diversity in the spokesmodels, we want this, we want that. Essentially giving the brand a message of what you stand for and what you hope that they would stand for, because you are their customers and consumers. And it can affect change. But the flip side of this cancel culture thing, because what I was talking about is more about feedback and not specifically cancel culture, I feel like these days people are a bit too quick to jump the gun and not really take a step back and assess the situation, let it kind of sit for a bit before before certain people go full out on attack and say, oh, this person is racist, this brand is racist, this person is homophobic, etc., 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 etc. And I mean, okay, someone made a brand might have made a distasteful campaign which has some racist undertones, but doesn't mean they're racist. There's so many people within a company. The marketing team didn't do their research. Someone's gonna get fired. But or even if it's not a brand, okay, let's just say it's an internet personality, an influencer who has his or her merchandising and products to sell and all this kind of thing. And then some stuff comes up from like long ago where they posted something like offensive, and then everyone's like, oh, he's such a bad person, da 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 da. That person is yeah, it's always racist and homophobic people. Kat Von D was under fire for being irresponsible in her anti-vaccination views. Martin is blending. So anyway, like I believe that no one is exempt from having prejudices of their own, even if like racism, racist ideas, racist subconscious ideas, attitudes, homophobic beliefs, prejudices, things like that. I think everyone has some of it. And even if you are a, let's say, straight ally for the LGBT community, you might have, and you probably do still have, prejudices of your own. And it's just difficult to remove oneself entirely from these ideas and long-held attitudes that have stemmed from not your own mean self. It's just what you kind of have been surrounded by. I don't know. It's just very difficult. I think people just need to cool your jets and kind of realize that, yeah, okay, people say stuff and people have beliefs and ideas that aren't prejudiced and discriminatory, and people are people, right? And it's nice if you would tell them, or you would voice your opinion saying like, I don't believe that this is true, I don't like what you're saying, I think this is upsetting, this is ignorant, this is whatever, discriminatory, it's hurtful. All of these kind of things, like, I think is very, like, a valid point to make if you are feeling those things. But, like, I feel like people sometimes just want to attack very strongly, and they want to see punishment and redemption and revenge. I don't think that's the way to get people to, you know, change their minds. I mean, maybe it is one way, but it's not a pleasant way. And maybe it's just because I don't like confrontation, but I feel like getting angry, like really, really worked up, isn't always the best thing to do. And that's not to say that I don't personally get angry. Sometimes I get really off my head if I'm offended at something, and sometimes I get paranoid and suspicious as well. And I think essentially humans are contradictory. We have a ideal self, and a lot of the times it just doesn't match up to who we actually are. So anyway, a lot of rambling, but my main point is, yeah, just calm down just a little bit, you know, calm down. And if you don't want to support this person anymore, sure, just take some time to, like, let the situation unfold before you start blocking things, or like cussing people out, or just saying this, labeling people as this or that without taking a little bit of a breather. That's just what I think should happen. And another thing that sometimes strikes me as odd is this idea that, like, people always say this is not for you to forgive, especially if it comes to some sort of minority issue, and the person that says that they forgive is not within the minority group, and then people from the minority group will tell them, well, this is not for you to forgive. And I would say that, I mean, maybe you can look at that in a philosophical way, that it's not really for them to forgive, but in a practical sense, typically this has something to do with either a company or a personality that earns money from, like, purchases from consumers in terms of buying their merchandise or subscribing to their channel, watching the ads on their channel, etc., 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 giving them sponsorship, giving them the audience so that they can gain sponsorships, things like that. But in that vein, I would say even if this person is not within the minority group that brand X offended or person X offended, they absolutely have the right to be offended by that person's actions on behalf of another group. And if that is the case, if they are allowed to be offended by a statement made about another group that is not directly, like, targeted at them, they absolutely have the right to believe an apology if it comes out. So yeah, case in point, to be safe, let's just use the example of Laura Lee and her comments about I think it was Chinese people, I can't remember, said something about dental floss on the eyes, I don't know, becoming a blindfold, blah blah blah, because we have small eyes. Yeah, funny. Okay, so she said that, and yeah, I can be offended, of course I can be offended, and there can be African Americans that are offended for other things she said, or white people that are offended on my behalf. But at the end of the day, like, if she apologizes and these other people believe her apology and think that that's enough, they can go back to supporting her again, and she can regain her subscriber list or regain her following, essentially. It's not like you're gonna wait for every single person within the minority group that was offended to support her again before you actually decide that you want to support her again. It doesn't work like that. That's gonna take too much time, and it'll probably never happen. So I absolutely disagree with that sentiment. Philosophically, if you want to think about it that way, fine. But, like, in a practical sense, in the world of business, people can spend their money the way they want. And even if you think it's a bad move, or just premature move to forgive or rejoin, start supporting someone again, it still happens. So I'm gonna blush up my cheeks a little bit more. Okay. Oh, and the lipstick, I almost forgot. I've been rambling so long. This is gonna be a long video, but oh my god. That is red. Okay, so that's the finished look. I hope you enjoyed. I actually really like this kind of vampy look. I typically don't put lots of gray on. I'm not entirely sure why. I think I've always just liked warmer tones, but somehow this red lip and the kind of what's this pinky shade in the crease, I think flatters the gray as well. I put the green down there because it was part of the challenge, part of the random eyeshadow challenge. I think if I had to do this over again, I would omit the green and just like mimic the shades on top, on the bottom of my lash line. But overall, I think this was a really like glamorous, vampy look to do. Okay, so I'll be interested to hear if you have anything to say about cancel culture, about brand personalities and how brands market themselves nowadays, including having people actually be brands. Yeah, I'm just interested in what you have to say about that. So if you do have something to say, just leave something, write something down. Okay, that's it for me, and ciao for now.